Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this episode 3409 and today's date is July 22nd, 2024, and the title of the episode is, Will Bitcoin be the reserve currency? It's all about the rate cut. Now, if you have a pet, you got to hear this. Dr. Gary Richter, named America's favorite veterinarian, has helped thousands of dogs with issues that seem impossible to go away. And he's made a video to alert you to something every pet owner must know. If your dog's coat is dull, if their energy is low, if they're itchy, if their ears are red, if their breath or poop smells very bad, or if they're just not doing as well as they should, these can be warning signs of bad health, and that could get much worse and serious with age. And the first thing we want to look at is nutrition. Basically, the dog food makers take healthy ingredients and pressure cook them at a super high temperature, and when it comes out the other end, you've got this brown mush. The food is supposed to last for 2 to 3 years on the shelf, but that means some pretty bad stuff has gotten into the food to make it last that long. And there's studies showing that this process can even lead to serious conditions. Now, after years of studying the issue and even writing a best-selling book, Richter says he has finally found a way to fight back and has identified the exact things you need to get back into your pet's diet. He created a short video explaining his exact health boosting methods along with step-by-step instructions for how to do it at home. You can watch and learn more about it at healthydog1.com/x22. That is healthydog1.com/x22. It's linked at the bottom of this video, but it'll teach you exactly what you need to know. It's easy and it takes 2 minutes a day and doesn't involve changing your dog's food. Go to healthydog1.com/x22 or click the link in the description box below this video. Let's get right into the economic collapse financial news. Now, the deep state, the corrupt politicians, the privatized central bank, the World Economic Forum, from the very beginning, they've told us that they want to bring us into the Great Reset, the Green New Scam. Now, Trump and the Patriots, they knew they were going to do this no matter what. It was going to happen even if there wasn't a pandemic, because their plan always revolved around bringing their old system down and bringing us into a new system. And they thought in the very, very beginning they were going to do this with war, but when Trump was in office, he had peace around the globe, so they had to rely on the pandemic. And then Trump countered that plan. But no matter what, they were always going to follow this plan because they always knew that their system would not last. Now, I do believe Trump and the Patriots, they needed everyone to see exactly what that system is, what that system does to you, and how it doesn't benefit you in the end. And I think the people of this country and the people around the world, they're definitely seeing it. They're realizing that the Green New Scam does not work for them. The monetary system that the central bankers have put together does not work for them. And I do believe Trump and the Patriots, they had to accelerate this over time, and they needed to show people in a very short period of time that this is a disaster in the making. And you have to remember, the central bankers, they love to spread this out. They don't want anyone to see exactly what they're doing. So Trump, he basically taken everything that they were doing and squished it into 4 years so people could see it very, very clearly. And I do believe he forced them into raising the rates, forced them into pushing their Green New Scam, forced them into trying to bring us into the Great Reset and destroy their own system so people could see very, very clearly what their plan actually was. And I think people now, they see it very, very clearly. And what's very interesting, when they initially started this off, they tried to get rid of fossil fuels. They tried to push people away from it. This is why Trump made the country energy independent. Remember, everything that he did within his 4 years, he wanted everyone to see that, look, I can put a Band-Aid over this. I can make us energy independent. I can bring jobs back. I can rework the trade deals. I can lower inflation. I can lower the unemployment rate. I can place tariffs on China. But again, until we get rid of the enemy, which is the private central bank and the deep state players, they can undo this with a snap of a finger. And that's exactly what they did. They undid everything that he did. But the point of that was to show everyone that it is possible to have low unemployment. It is possible to have low inflation. It is possible to place tariffs on other countries, especially China. It is possible to bring industry back. It is possible to be energy independent. And as soon as Biden came into office, he removed this country from energy independence. And that actually showed the people the truth. Because remember, their plan was to bring us into the Green New Scam and push EVs. And the only way to make EVs look halfway decent was to subsidize them because, again, there is no supply and demand. The people weren't out there going, you know something, I really need an EV right now. I wish there was one out there. I wish we had a whole market full of EVs. No, there was no demand for EVs. The government was pushing the EVs on the people, just like they're pushing the solar panels, the windmills, and everything else. There was no demand, so they had to give an incentive. It's almost like when you look at the Affordable Care Act. They were giving us something that really didn't benefit us. And in the long run, it cost a lot of money. So they knew that people weren't just going to go and buy it and use it. So what they did was they penalized people for not taking it because there wasn't a demand for it. I mean, listen, if you make a great product and people see that it's a great product, people will rush to get it. When you make something terrible and people realize it doesn't benefit them, people aren't going to do that. And the government, normally what they do is they try to force you into it. They give you subsidies. They say, hey, listen, you get a COVID vaccine, I'll give you a hamburger. Get a COVID vaccine, I'll give you tickets. They always do something to try to entice you into it because they know that people aren't normally going to do this. And that's exactly what they did with EVs. They decided to subsidize the entire thing. And Trump, he made an announcement. He said, I will end the electric vehicle mandate on day one, thereby saving the U.S. auto industry from complete obliteration and saving U.S. customers thousands of dollars per car. Translation, Trump states that all federal EV subsidies will end if he wins in November, which he's going to win. So why is Elon Musk all for this? Because Elon doesn't need the subsidies. Whole Mars Catalog put this out and said, Tesla doesn't need subsidies. The other unprofitable EV makers do. We're giving $7,500 to people who buy gas cars with a small battery. We're capping the price of EVs, hurting the profitability of the industry. If the EV tax credit dies, I don't shed a tear for it. Elon said, take away the subsidies. It will only help Tesla. Also, remove subsidies from all industries. You see, Tesla, Elon Musk, he makes a pretty good product. Yes, it's an electric car. And listen, if you want an electric car to go around town, that's great. But don't force electric cars on everyone and say you cannot have a gas-powered car. There's room to have a gas-powered car if people want it, and room to have an electric car. A lot of people do have that. If I was going on a long trip, personally, I would want a gas-powered car. Actually, I really don't like EVs that much, but a lot of people do. So if somebody wants one, they should have the ability to get one. And yes, Elon, who makes Tesla, makes a halfway decent electric car. And he doesn't need the subsidies. All the other manufacturers need it because they're not profitable, because they're being pushed on the people. The people are actually see the truth in this. And this is not going to help the deep state players move us into the Green New scam. Because once again, they were trying to convince the people that this was the future. And people now are seeing that this is not the future. What people are actually seeing is they're seeing the entire economic system fall apart right in front of their eyes, while the Fed, the Biden administration, and Biden is still there, maybe he's dead right now, we don't know, they're watching it completely and utterly fall apart. And they're being lied to every step of the way. The Kobisi letter put this out and said, job postings declined 12.4% year over year to their lowest level since April 2021. Overall, U.S. job postings are down by approximately 50% since their December 2021 record. However, nationwide job postings are still 11.7% above the pre-pandemic baseline, according to Indeed. Meanwhile, U.S. job openings unexpectedly increased in May to 8.14 million from 7.29 million in April, according to the latest BLS data. Data provided by Indeed is more current than the BLS provided series, which suggests a further decline in U.S. job openings is coming. The U.S. labor market continues to weaken, and it is weakening every single day. And I do believe as we get closer and closer to the presidential election and things really start to fall apart, people are going to start to understand that we have major, major problems, especially when the Fed cuts the rates. And I do believe everything revolves around this rate cut because, again, we need to remember once they cut the rate, this is going to start a domino effect. I do believe that the economy was already pushed over the edge, and they already know this. They're just waiting to show, hey, look, our policies have been working. Bidenomics worked. The Fed was able to bring down inflation. Everything is fantastic. When they cut the rate, that's when everything starts to fall apart. And they're going to try to cover this up, most likely with some type of an event, because again, they don't want to be blamed for it, but they need their people to win the election. So they need to prop them up in using this rate cut to show everyone that the economy is doing well, even though people are experiencing inflation, even though people are experiencing high fuel costs. People will need to be convinced that everything is fine. But I don't think the people are really going to be convinced of this, especially when the market comes down, especially when you're feeling the inflation. Remember, inflation is cumulative. It doesn't go away. Yes, it could slow, but it doesn't go away. But I do believe Carol Roth explains it very, very well. And she uses weight gain. She says you gain 10 pounds 1 year, 6 the next, and 4 the third year. Your weight gain is the lowest in 3 years, but you're still up 20 pounds and now have to wear elastic waist pants. So that's how inflation works. Yes, you gain 10, 5, 8, 10, 3. Now it's only at 2 you're gaining, but you already gained all that weight. And yes, you might be only gaining 2 pounds now afterwards, but all of that just doesn't go away. It's the same thing with inflation. This has been cumulative since 1970, and it hasn't gone away. That's why people feel it every single day. And yes, it's just going to get worse. It's not going to get better. That's why they say, oh, if we can get inflation down to 1%, that'd be incredible. Well, that's the growth of inflation. They can't get rid of all the inflation that has already hit us. We can't go back to 1971 prices. That's not going to happen. And they know this. And this is why people are, experiencing inflation, because they go, okay, I understand it's 1%. Even if it's 0% right now, why is everything still expensive? Because that part doesn't go away. Now, the other thing that's very interesting is it looks like Ethereum, they're going to now put out ETFs. And after years of regulatory pushback and countless amended registration filings, spot Ether exchange-traded funds are finally hitting the market, almost like Bitcoin. The timing of all this is very, very interesting as we approach the presidential election, as the economy is going to actually implode, as Trump is saying, I'm all for cryptocurrency, Bitcoin. Now, that is very interesting. And also the other thing that's very interesting is that CNBC, they have discussed the idea of the U.S. potentially holding Bitcoin as a reserve currency under Trump. Now, why all of a sudden would they switch to Bitcoin as a reserve currency? I thought they hated it. I thought the Fed said criminals only use this. I said it's too volatile. All of a sudden, we can have this as a reserve currency, just like gold can be a reserve currency, and we can hold that? Seems like a insurance policy against the fiat currency. That's what it's starting to look like. And I do believe we will most likely move away from the fiat currency and head back to sound money. Now, the Constitution says that we must coin our own money. And I do believe we'll probably go back to that, but we'll probably also use the electronic feature of Bitcoin. I mean, we have it today. The difference is that the central bank controls the creation of the currency. So we do have gold. And I know most people say, hey, we don't know if we have the gold because Fort Knox has never been audited. But I do believe we do have the gold, which means we have gold and we've been using paper currency. So can we go back to the gold standard? Can we use Bitcoin and maybe price it off using gold? Most likely, yes. And I do believe that we'll probably head in that direction. And I do believe Trump most likely will collect the tariffs in Bitcoin. And this should be very, very interesting moving forward. But the other thing that's very interesting is that central banks, they have purchased gold to offset their own money destruction. So that is very interesting because remember, the private central banks, they have been telling us for a very long time that the paper currency is king. And that is the money. Gold is just a barbarous relic. Nobody really cares about that. You use it for jewelry. And the private West central bank system, they've been accumulating gold for a very long time. And they're using it to protect themselves from what is coming. I mean, you have to ask yourself a question. Wouldn't you think they'd be ramping up and actually keeping all the paper currency in their vaults to protect themselves against a economic disaster? Why would they keep gold? Remember, they're telling us this is your money. Here, take it. You owe us interest. Why aren't they taking that and putting it in their safes and saying, oh, we're safe. We got all this paper. We're good to go. The reason for that is because they know that their paper money, it's just an instrument of debt. And they use it to trick the people of this world. They use it to make the people think that this is the currency, and they let people borrow it, and they tell people you have to pay it back with interest attached. This is how they enslave the governments. This is how they enslave the people. And they're trying to do this again with the central bank digital currency. But I do believe Trump and the Patriots, they have already letting everyone know that the direction we're heading in is not in that direction. We're heading away from the central bank digital currency. We're heading away from the central bank's fiat currency. We're heading back to sound money, gold. I do believe Bitcoin is going to be included in all of this. And I do believe this is the direction that we're headed in. And this is why Trump and the Patriots have been putting that message out that we are not going to allow the central bank digital currency to come into an existence. This is why Trump is now on the side of Bitcoin. He always liked gold. I mean, everything that he has is just gold. So we know he likes gold. I do believe this is where the country is going to be heading back. I do believe Trump follows the Constitution, and I do believe the country and the world will move away from the central bank system. And as we get closer and closer to the presidential election, I do believe at that point, the central banks around the world will be at their weakest point. Because remember, when there is an event, when they bring down their system, it's not just going to be here in this country, it's going to be worldwide. And I do believe they'll be at their weakest, and Trump and the Patriots will be at their strongest. And the world will follow and move away from the private, what's the central bank system. And I do believe in the end, these central bank systems that we know today will be completely and utterly restructured, and soon they will cease to exist. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.